What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring you everything fresh in entertainment. I'm your host, Drew. I'm your host, Drew Brumfield. We're just gonna go with that recording, and I'm joined with everyone's favorite nerd and game designer, Robert Lay. Robert, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Robert, and I've been screwed over by Nintendo.
Always fun. And I'm also joined by this freaking dork with a Star Wars tattoo. How you doing?
Hi, that was a decision to go with that intro
I didn't
that you opened with, but whatever.
I didn't feel
We'll
like
roll with it, I guess.
I don't feel like doing it again. All right, and we're into it. All right, we're doing it live. All right.
Professionally unprofessional.
Yes. Well, thank y'all both for joining me. And today's episode, we're gonna talk about a little something specific. Because or I guess depending on when you when you're listening to this, professional by the way, it was recently announced at Comic-Con the next couple of phases for Marvel, and there's a bunch of movies, bunch of different things. But we wanted to look at the current Phase 4 of Marvel now that we're past Infinity War and Thanos, and majority of like our original Avengers are they're gone or retired or whatever. So I guess just before we get into like the specific movies, how did you guys, and Robert, I'll start with you. How do you feel about Phase 4 in general? Do you think it's a step up? Do you think it's kind of the quality's going down as movies are going on, or what are you thinking?
I think it's just been kind of inconsistent all around. Like, it started off kind of with like Black Widow. It kind of picked up like Shang-Chi. Spider-Man No Way Home was fucking incredible. I don't remember anything about Eternals. I've not seen a lot of the shows besides WandaVision. I liked Doctor Strange. And what was the last one I did? Thor Love and Thunder. I did not like it all. So all over the place.
Yeah, mixed emotion. Randy, what about you? You agree or?
I think I agree that it is kind of up and down. Black Widow, I thought was fine, just released at a poor time. It should have been a movie that came out before Civil War, because that's also when it takes place.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it takes place. Is it after Civil War or before Civil War?
It's like it's like right after Civil War.
Yeah. So it should have, like, that movie should have come out then.
Yeah.
But, for whatever X, Y, and Z reason, it came out in Phase 4.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a fine movie, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Shang-Chi, I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Eternals was kind of boring. It was fine, I guess, but it was just very generic. It just didn't feel like, man, that was awesome. What was awesome? Spider-Man No Way Home, dope. Multiverse of Madness, I was okay on the first time I watched it. Second time I watched it, turned out a lot better, so enjoyed that as well. And Thor Love and Thunder, thought it was great.
All right.
So yeah.
So we'll definitely get into
Overall, I think it's doing all right. It's a lot of setup, but yeah.
Yeah, that's like the big thing with me is like it's very much like a setup phase.
Yeah. It is kind of that awkward thing, like I said, where we just kind of finished this big, war arc with a bunch of other like really mainstream characters, and now it's trying to. I've heard a lot of people like kind of say this as like, that should have been the end of Marvel, and this is kind of Marvel just dying out almost. Like it just keeps going despite it not needing to. I don't know if I necessarily completely agree with that idea because, like you guys mentioned, there are some really good ones in here, and we'll get to that. But let's start. And Randy, you started getting into this, but let's start with what actually started off Phase 4, which was Black Widow. And you already kind of described it a little bit, where it is her origin story, but we're only learning about this, spoiler alert, after she already died. Like we saw the end of her story and majority of it. Now it's like, and we're only seeing a little bit of her origin, but it's just kind of weird middle section where it just kind of felt like a very awkward movie, to say the least.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to make the decision to do a Black Widow movie like post-mortem per se.
Yeah.
Like It's very much a, oh right, we had to get this out because we needed to end Scarlett Johansson's like contract.
Yeah, and there's a whole big issue with like her contract and Disney kind of screwing her over and a bunch of other things, but don't really want to get into that too much. But like this movie specifically is very much it's a very middle of the road movie and like a very awkward start. Um, it does have good moments. Like Scarlett Johansson herself is good. The inclusion of Yelena and Red Guardian, they're great, but the story is kind of confusing. The main villain of Taskmaster, in my opinion, is done horribly. Like Taskmaster is a really cool villain, but that is not the version that we got in this is not what he.
It's
Well,
just kind of like B plot. Because you
yeah.
say main villain, but like I wouldn't even consider Taskmaster the main villain of
No,
this.
no, he's not. It's this like person that's like I
Who
can't
runs
even.
the Black Widow organization?
Yeah, I can't even remember their like his name, but
I didn't tell you.
Yeah,
I know what
exactly.
he did. But,
yeah, but it's it's that speaks to it is he's so forgettable that, and the only reason I remember Taskmaster is because it's a name I remember, and I remember because I disliked it so much. So it's a bit, yeah, it's a very awkward start. Um, to be fair, it was this is the first movie that like came out during like COVID, if I'm not wrong. So
correct.
Yeah.
For
so
the Marvel ones, they kept
yeah,
pushing it, and then I think they finally. It was still a dual release, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
simultaneous, and so I know I watched it at home.
yeah, it was
The
very
COVID wasn't too bad up here, so my family we went to the theater to see it, and I don't think it really makes a difference where you watched it, to be honest. Like, there's some movies it's like, oh, you need to see it in the big screen.
Yeah.
That one is kind of just a. If you just watch it at home on the couch, you're getting the same experience.
yeah. It's definitely an awkward start. But moving on from Black Widow, the next like at least movie to come out,
Well, here, wait. Before we move on,
Yeah.
real quick, I do want to give at least some praises to it.
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
the young actor who played like young Natasha,
Mhm.
I for some reason I just remember her doing really well. But to be fair, I haven't watched it since I originally watched it. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe I'm mistaken and she actually did terrible. But from what I remember being like, wow, for like a young actor, she's doing really well. So props to her. Let's see, Ever Anderson. At least that's what Google says.
Yeah.
So I thought she did well. I did like the inclusion of Yelena. I know initially I was like, I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, oh, it's just the bad person's just someone with the same powers as you, basically, and they're also your sister. But I liked their back and forth, and it wasn't very much of just like she was the bad person really at all.
No.
It was they kind of like jumped through that really quickly, which was good. But I liked their dynamic, and their family dynamic overall was really fun.
Yeah, that's one of the things I did kind of enjoy about the movie was like the family dynamic was handled like relatively well. Like I would say it's like the best thing ever, but I mean it's pretty believable, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. So
Yeah. The best thing
Yeah.
that did come out of this movie was I think Yelena, and I'm glad to see that like she is still in the MCU and she's going to be in future projects because it's always fun
Yeah.
like when she pops up and she's very entertaining to watch. Sorry, Robert, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like a couple things like I think with like the Black Widow is it's what I would classify as like junk food Marvel. It's
Yeah.
like I came out of it and I don't really feel like I got something of like substance or anything. Like I just feel like I watched like a Marvel movie. Like it didn't feel like super necessary in a lot of ways, but granted, I think timing played into a lot of that. Because I think had this movie came out like a few years before it did, my like opinion of it would be like drastically different.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, and you both have said that actually, where like this definitely need to be a phase 3 or even 2 movie, like her movie to come out. And while I do agree with that, there are still like I feel like this movie has problems with it outside of just its timing. I'm not saying I definitely agree with you that it should have came out before Endgame, but also there are still a bunch of issues that do hurt it, and it very much feels like one of the earlier Marvel movies where like the story is kind of like predictable. The villain is super like unremarkable, and it is just kind of as middle of the road as you can get. And yeah, honestly, when I was looking at this, I forgot that this was the start of Phase 4 because I just honestly forgot. Like, oh right, Black Widow was a thing. Like it just happened.
Yeah, that's honestly like the best way to kind of just describe Black Widow is oh, it's a movie that happened.
Yeah. That said, the movie that came on after it, and honestly, I would have been a lot happier if this was the start for Phase 4, was with Shang-Chi, because
Agreed.
yeah, as far as like origin movies go, this one it does a lot of things really well. It separates itself from a lot of the other Marvel movies, not only by having a mostly Asian cast, but also a lot of really cool fight scenes, a lot of cool martial arts.
Because to kind of piggyback off your comment a little
Yeah.
bit, what I like about the movie is that it is a Marvel that doesn't really feel like a Marvel movie
Exactly.
in a sense.
Mhm.
Like it's in that universe, but largely like everything else about it is pretty like detached from it, like you said.
Yeah.
So it feels like kind of refreshing in a way, and then also just like story, characters and such were just they're really different than a lot of other of like the MCU characters, which made them like and the dynamic between like the main protagonist and like his best friend was like just really really good. Like you could feel the chemistry.
Yeah, that was something I was definitely going to talk about. Is like, yeah, the two leads. You definitely feel like okay, you two are friends. It reminds me of like friendships I've had, and it's what sells you in the first part of the movie. Because honestly, if you think about it, the beginning of Shang-Chi, there's like a good while before its first real fight scene.
I
But
think the first fight scene's the one on the bus. Right?
yeah, that's the first one. But that's honestly, I don't know the exact time, but probably a good 20 minutes, maybe even longer into the movie. But by that point, you're kind of already sold on the characters just because of their friendship. And yeah, that's a very big part of this, and it's viable. And I'm really hoping whenever Shang-Chi is used in the future, that they just stay friends. I know it's like a very common trope if there's a male and a female that are like the leads, they have to be a love interest, but I really want them to stick with what they've been going on. It's like, no, just keep them friends. A man and a female can just be friends and just hang out, and I would like it if this movie stayed with that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Randy, you haven't been able to talk about it. What do you think of? What are your thoughts on Shang-Chi?
I agree that I really do hope that the main characters just stay friends, and it is very believable their dynamic of being just these two really good friends that have known each other for a long time. And the fight scenes in it were great. And I forget who choreographed them, but I know that I've seen it a lot on the like Stuntman React
Mhm.
channel over
Yeah.
on the Corridor Crew channel
Mhm.
and stuff like that, and they always come back to Shang-Chi and stuff and some of the fight scenes through there, and it was really enjoyable to see how different kind of the fight scenes were shot in comparison to traditional Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And
That's-
kind of like the way like some of them fight, it's like almost like a dance in a way.
That's why, like, when I first, when I was first talking about, I want to compare it to like a martial arts movie where there are a lot more longer shots just left on the actors and let them, do their stunts, do their flips and kicks and whatever. Because when you have people who are professionally trained martial artists, you don't want to do the traditional action movie thing where it's just cutting back and forth and cutting, just to like
Yeah.
throw mess in the screen so the audience can't see that these aren't professionals. But
I think like there wasn't. I think I remember in like a couple of the fight scenes that I could hardly think of any like real camera transitions,
yeah,
and if there were, they were like masked pretty well. Like I think one had like a lot of like leaves blowing and like wind would blow in front of the camera, and it
Mhm.
would switch to another shot. Like it felt like a lot more like seamless
yeah.
than like a lot of other like action movies.
Also, another thing is, I know we're on Shang-Chi for a while, but another thing that kind of like sets this movie apart is its visuals aren't like its visuals are very different from other Marvel movies in the sense of like it's very, not to say that like other Marvel movies aren't colorful. This isn't the DCEU, but it has very vibrant colors. It has different, how do I describe this? The way it uses light is very unique compared to the other movies that it's related to. And I think that speaks to why when we're watching this, we're not thinking that, oh, this is just a Marvel movie. Like, yeah, we see the hints in the world. Like, it's cool to see Wong and Abomination and all the others. But if they weren't in that, and if this was just about a story of a martial artist who ran away from his home and has to like come back, this would still be a good movie without Marvel's name attached to it. Now, it might not have done as well just because the Marvel name brings in a lot of people, but I think it still would have worked just as fine if this was a standalone thing and wasn't connected to a bigger world. Now that
I think having like Wong in like to show up in that one scene,
yeah,
like just briefly, was a good kind of way to connect it, like to make it like say like this is still in that universe, so it feels detached but just enough to where it's not like, is this really a
Yeah.
Marvel movie?
yeah, it has enough room to stand on its own feet. Which I'm glad you brought up Wong, because I love how much he's used in Phase 4, and a lot of people have
Yeah,
been
really.
a lot of people have been comparing him to like he's essentially like the new Nick Fury of this kind of phase of
Phase.
Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is because he's been in like a majority of these projects, and most of the time it's like a pretty significant role. I mean, not so much in Shang-Chi, but still, he shows up in the credits and he shows up talking to people. And like he does keep popping up, and I always like joke about it, but like no, Wong's like a really cool character who like usually is like the butt of a joke, but he actually is kind of like a mainstay player, and I don't know, it's kind of cool seeing.
He's a lot more competent than they initially like set him up to be.
Yeah, well, because initially he's just like the third side character of the first like Doctor Strange. Like I would not ever have thought that this guy would be so critical in the future when I was first introduced to him. But it's actually been like pretty entertaining seeing that actor pop up and like,
Yeah, seeing him show
yeah.
up in a bunch of stuff
and
has
even
been fun.
yeah, and even most recently it was shown that he'll be in She-Hulk, along with my boy Daredevil, which is awesome. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll definitely talk about that later. So that said, we went from a pretty average Marvel movie to a really good one, and now we're on everyone's favorite one, Eternals. Probably out of everything in Phase 4, in my opinion, I would say like the most divisive amongst fans. I've heard people that have praised this movie and be like, "Oh no, it's really good. It sets up so many different characters and it's all this." And I've heard a lot of other people have been like, "This is garbage, bottom tier Marvel, second worst MCU movie.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like,
on
there's
second worst MCU, like Jesus.
well, I mean, well, I guess what are your guys' thoughts about it before I get to it? What do you guys think about Eternals?
I zoned out for like the majority
All
of
right,
it.
Randy, you can answer that question. Then, Randy, what is your thoughts on Eternals?
All right. I don't know about the worst. I honestly, maybe I'd have to rewatch them back to back. I think it's better than, or at least maybe it sets up more ideas at least, than Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
I know Black Widow, like you said, it's very weird to go back and do this story about this character once we already see that character leave the MCU and die.
Yeah.
So, but I think Eternals does set up some interesting characters, and I kind of did like the idea of having these characters that were living on Earth as these gods, basically, and where the twist happens of being like, oh, we keep getting reset, and it's just to birth these planet eaters, right?
Yeah. Yes. No, you're.
I've-
I like it.
what did
I
I-
could hear in your
Titans?
voice. You're like, "What was the plot of this movie again?" But yes, their
Oh, I'm
jo-
trying to
their
trying to
job is
remember
to
what the
like
name.
go to a planet, make it hospitable, and then the planet will birth a celestial, and then the
Celestial, that's what it is. I thought it was a Titan. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the characters were fun. The end fight scene was weird,
Mm-hmm.
to be sure,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I guess now thinking about it, yeah, it is under Black Widow.
It's
under
what, yeah.
Black Widow.
You see,
Yeah.
once you start talking about it, I'm like, well, yeah, but then there's that, and then there's that, and it's the more you think about Eternals, the lower on your list it's going, or the lower the ranking is. Because, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. It is kind of, it sets up a lot, but it kind of is all over the place. I mean, this is one of the longer Marvel movies, like almost 3 hours. And I get it, it does have to like introduce a lot of different characters, but it also, it doesn't like hold my attention for a lot of it. And out of like, I think there's 10 of these characters, I like 3 of them. And one of them dies halfway through. So it really starts dropping my thing. But because of them, I like Gilgamesh was my favorite. And of course, he's the one that, spoilers, passes away. Well, not passes away. He's murdered. But I liked him. I liked the Death Girl. And then who was the other one? Well, I guess I didn't like him that much. But you know, there's a lot more of the characters. Like I didn't really like Sprite. I didn't like Druid. He was the only part of Druid I liked was when he. The best part of the movie is when he got a rock and then just bashed Sprite in the head with it.
Weird ending, like I said.
Again, yeah, weird that like these super powered beings who have all these like different abilities and magic or whatever, and then Druid just smacks her with a rock.
Bob.
Yeah. Oh,
Beat
and
the
then
plastics.
yeah, one of the main characters, I can't remember his character's name, but the one that like has like the finger guns essentially just doesn't show up for the final battle. Like it's just kind of like, I'm just gonna sit this one out, and then just leaves.
Does he
Festus is-
not?
No, he's not in the final battle. Yeah, he's in the fight before, but he's like, I don't want to fight my other like my fellow Eternals, but I'm also not okay with the world ending, so I'm just not gonna be there. And he just doesn't help. He doesn't help either side. He's just not. It was just such a weird. It has a lot of weird and interesting choices. Also, Festus was the other character I liked. But yeah, Eternals is a very mixed bag. Robert, what are your thoughts on it? We haven't heard you talk about Eternals yet.
I was just bored for most of it.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly just ended up zoning out a lot of the time just because I just was not engaged with what was going on in the movie. It's like, if you asked me like one thing about it, I honestly couldn't answer you. Like, it was so unremarkable to me. Like, it couldn't hold my attention, and not even just that, uh, it just wasn't very memorable on top of it. Which you can kind of tell with like Randy just kind of struggling to like describe events in the movie, because it's just like, what happened again? Like that's kind of what Eternals just seems to be to me.
Well, here's the thing. Even I could sit here and describe to you guys the movie, and I'm sure you'd go like, "Oh yeah," but then half the times you'd be like, yeah, like that was why did that happen?" You remember that like one of the earlier scenes where the main character and then the not Superman. Also, do you notice how I'm calling these characters that? It's because I didn't look up a list of their names before this, and so that is what my memory.
Other than
of them.
Festus.
Yeah, other than Festus.
The only good one.
Yeah, Festus and Gilgamesh, the ones I like. But like, there's just like a weird scene of them like making out, and it almost turns into a sex scene in a Marvel movie, and it goes on for like what felt like forever. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Okay, cool.
But I believe it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this movie's forgettable. I could have made that up, but you guys don't know. But I know you guys watched this movie, so yeah, it's just it's a very. I don't even know if I want to say awkward because Black Widow is awkward, but at least I remember it. Eternals is Eternals is just ironically very forgettable. It has a pretty short lifespan.
Despite being almost 3 hours.
Forgettable and unremarkable.
What do you see what I did there? It has a short lifespan and it's called Eternals.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We got the joke.
Was it funnier though when I explained the joke too?
Yes.
All right, great. Good
to inside.
Okay. Well, after Eternals, it actually does take a while for the next one because they're right then Disney Plus is doing kind of like their Marvel shows. I think also it might have got delayed because of COVID and stuff. And we'll get to the shows in a second, not in depth. But the next one to actually come out is Spider-Man. I was about to say Doctor Strange, but nope, cannot skip Spider-Man.
Doctor Strange is really prevalent in the movie, so I mean, I kind of understand why.
But yeah, and so you want to talk about because Black Widow, up until this, Phase 4 was really going downhill. Black Widow was Shang-Chi was good, but not enough to bring it back, and then Eternals was really dropping people off. You want to talk about the movie that got people back into theaters? Was this movie, Spider-Man: No Way Home? Robert, you're the one that screamed first. Why? What do you think about this movie?
I think if you're a fan of like just Spider-Man movies since like the Raimi trilogy, you are going to be in love with this movie. It's such like a love letter to the old movies while also still being its own thing, or still like being more about the Tom Holland Spider-Man. It's such a good way to just tie in those Spider-Man movies so they're not just kind of there. Like they have more of a purpose now from that, and kind of develop some of those characters a little more and do some of those characters justice. Like, who was the villain from Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Electro.
Electro.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Electro. I haven't seen that movie.
There were a couple of villains from Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not very good. So
yeah, but it's like they did Electro Justice.
Mm-hmm.
They did like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man Justice.
Yep.
And some little bit of closure of that. And not only that, it makes me really like Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like I always thought it was like pretty good, but like I really like his Spider-Man by the end of that movie. Like it just does so many things right.
Yeah.
That I just can't help but just love that movie. It's definitely my favorite of like this phase of Marvel.
Yeah. I think you'd be hard to find, even as much as I do like the next one that we'll talk about. You'd be hard pressed to find anyone that doesn't say this is not the best out of Phase 4. This is essentially the end game but just Spider-Man.
An end game, but also introduces like the multiverse stuff like more.
I would say expands on that more, which is kind of like this whole, and that gets more into from Doctor Strange and even some of the shows of how more multiverse and like different dimension this universe gets. But talking about just this movie, and spoiler alerts for everyone who hadn't seen it, but if you have literally seen anything on the internet, this movie has been spoiled for you. But yeah, it brings.
Oh my God.
Well, I guess Robert also had already talked about this, but it brings in all three Spider-Men. It's something that people have been talking about for years, and not just Spider-Man, but like people have been wanting a Batman movie about like this, or a Superman, or anything where multiple actors have played the same character. But this movie was the first to do it, and it did it really well. And it did in a
I'm
sense.
surprised it did. I'm surprised it did so well. And this movie was also like that reveal was so cool.
Yeah.
But it was like the worst kept secret of like any movie.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well,
if you like remotely follow
Yeah.
this stuff online, there were just so many like leaks about it, and even
Yeah.
one of the trailers,
Oh.
they didn't like edit it correctly. So like one of the villains like jolts his head back, like someone else that was edited out was
Yeah.
clearly fighting him, and even like set photos of like the other spider costumes.
Yeah. Despite the actors like literally just lying in front of the camera, be like, "No, I've never been. I don't even like Spider-Man anymore. I hate it." Yeah, but it's still, despite that, like, yeah, this was anyone that was anyone could see this coming. In the actual movie, it's done really well. All three Spider-Men, you either get closure for or you feel like their story is continuing. Obviously, with Tom Holland, he's the lead, and it very much feels like it never feels like people are taking away from his movie. You still feel like he is the main character. But look at the other Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield has a very interesting storyline where he blames himself for what happened in Spider-Man 2, despite Amazing Spider-Man 2 not being that good. They still can address that trauma and move this character forward. And Tobey Maguire, you're watching him and you feel like this is a much older, like, Peter who's been doing this for a long time and is tired.
He feels like the wisest of like the three
Yeah.
Spider-Men.
But you can also like see him kind of like he's the big brother of the group, and you kind of see him with Tom, and you're like, he recognizes his own mistakes in the way, and like he's able to help him. So, and not just with the Spider-Man, but then when you look at the villains, I mean, there are like a bunch of different people from different movies to keep up with, but every single one of them, except Lizard, but honestly no one really cares that much about Lizard, every one of them has their story going on and feels like they have the appropriate amount of screen time. Like Robert said, Electro actually is able to act and do work and be interesting. Doc Ock, who is one of the best from the Maguire series, is still great here. Green Goblin.
It's so great that they got like Alfred Molina and
Yeah.
William Dafoe back for
Yeah.
this.
But yeah,
William Dafoe's not surprising just because he just loves the Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, but like, and you definitely see it in this movie because he is like,
It's fucking scary.
he's terrifying in this, and he's so interesting to watch, and he's so cool. Randy, I'm sorry, I've kind of been talking a lot. Why don't you talk to us about either Green Goblin or just this movie in general?
I'll go over Green Goblin since
Yeah.
you guys have already touched on most everything else.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Green Goblin in this because, I mean, honestly, the one time we saw him before, I guess not the one time, we see him a couple other times in the Raimi
throughout
universe.
the trilogy because we
Yeah,
also have Harry as
but-
New Goblin.
yeah, but not like as the Green Goblin because
Yeah.
he just, as actual Green Goblin, we only see him in the first one, which I guess it's appropriate for the time to like the time that it came out,
Yeah.
but having him actually be a bit more twisted and be actually darker, and just keep like Tom Holland, and in spoiler, how Aunt May dies in this, and just kind of being like, you have all this power, but it's pointless, and it's your fault she was there and all that stuff. And I thought that was done well. And their fight scene just in that
That like
apartment
hallway
complex
or, like, yeah.
is amazing.
when he's doing
I absolutely
W-
love it. I think it's better than the end fight in my
He's
opinion.
doing WWE moves on him, like through the
For real.
floor, like through like a couple of stories.
God, just when he's bashing his
Yeah.
elbow or is punching Green Goblin repeatedly, and he's just laughing and just enjoying it. I was just like, oh God, he's just so fucked up. This is great.
Yeah. It's you could, and like props to Willem Dafoe from going from this helpless old man who just feels sick and wants to go home and wants to see his son again, and then immediately 180 to this just ruthless killing machine and just this psychopath who loves hurting people.
Norman's on sabbatical, honey.
Gosh,
That is awesome.
he's really good, and he's like a big part. He's not the only part, but like a big part of why this movie works. And just to prove to people, if you haven't watched it yet, this movie is so good that people watch this and then got to thinking that the Amazing Spider-Man movies were actually good and started asking for a third one. That's how good this
I
movie
know.
was.
This is how good it was.
made-
People were like, we need a third one of this. And I'm like, no, we don't.
And I'm like, all right, everyone calm down. Let's rewatch Amazing Spider-Man 2 and then realize what. But because it just shows that, like, yeah, these are good characters when you have competent writers and a good story to tell, and not whatever Amazing Spider-Man 2 was.
I will say one gripe I did have about the movie, and it's very minor, but it did feel. I know you guys were talking like it felt like the characters progressed in referring to Toby and Andrew, and there is some of that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I wish they would have touched on talking about like other people that they have fought, because they go on to talk about like what are some of the like craziest people you fought, and it's just talks about Venom.
Yeah.
For Toby, and then Rhino, which we don't even actually see that fight, for Amazing Spider-Man.
I guess
And
it was
like,
some-
I don't know. It would have been interesting if they would have referred to like their own version of like Mysterio or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It's a super minor gripe,
Yeah,
but
I do agree.
I don't
But it's one of those things. It also does lead to a funny thing. It's like, wait, hold up, you've been to space? What? Yeah.
well, I mean, you could still have that moment and just have
yeah.
none of the other neither of the other two go to
Yeah.
space.
Because I think it's one of those things where, and I know what you're talking about, but I don't even know if I want to blame this movie for that, because it very much feels like, in watching that, I'm like, yeah, the other Spider-Man, like and everyone will agree with this, like, we really want to see more of the other Spider-Man. Really, I would love to see all three of them join up again, which there's still a possibility that can happen again, because like their chemistry together is really good, and I think continuing, like keeping them together and allowing the other two to kind of take a bit more of the spotlight would really help for like future projects and keeping that going.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but maybe in a few years we'll get another Spider-Man, and this time we could have Miles and Miguel O'Hare and Gwen and essentially Spider-Verse. Yeah, live action Spider-Verse.
I'm wondering if they're going to actually do like Miles in the MCU.
I'd be interested in it. I'm actually.
I think they definitely will eventually.
Yeah. Well, getting into, talking about different versions of Spider-Man, now let's talk about different versions of just the entire universe, because now we're on the latest, excuse me, not
Closing
latest,
comment.
second latest.
I
I
had a
forgot
closing comment
about
on Spider-Man.
Almost forgot about the other. Oh, sorry. What else do you have to say about
Yeah, I
Spider-Man?
did have. I'm honestly really interested in where they take the character forward
Yeah.
because I love what they did at the end of that movie
Mm-hmm.
with like Peter. Like I really like the he accepts the consequences of what like he did to like screw up the multiverse, and like resetting it. You know, everyone had to forget about him, so he plays the plays like it's the Spider-Man could be anyone thing
Yeah.
again. Like he doesn't want a face attached to Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
and he figured out like how he wants to balance, you know, Peter and Spider-Man, because that's like a major theme from that movie
Yeah.
is like he gets his identity revealed and how that affects his life
Mm-hmm.
and his relationships and such. It just kind of brings that into question. So what they do with the ending of the movie makes me really interested to where they're going to take the character forward.
Yeah. I agree. Something that also, I'm glad you brought that up because something that I just remembered is towards the end, I really like, you can see his decision making process in the sense of the main thing that makes him not only make that decision and make everyone forget, but also keep everyone in the dark. Like he doesn't go and tell Ned or Zendaya or MJ, I guess I should call her, but he does that because he you can see it, and it's never because he says it. He doesn't want like to hurt them because he knows that his lifestyle and his choices do cause them, you know, drama and pain and suffering, whether his friends will admit that or not, or even if they do, they're okay with it. But he doesn't want to keep putting them through that, and it's really like good visual storytelling because every time that Peter looks at MJ or talks to him, he immediately talks like, "Oh, you have a scratch there. Oh, are you okay? Are you hurt?" And then when he meets MJ, that doesn't know who Peter is, he asks, "How are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm actually happy." And then he asks about like a scratch, and it's like, "Oh, it's I don't remember how I got this, but it's healing." And so that's kind of her. I don't know what she exactly said. That's kind of his thing of like, she's in less pain when I'm away, and so that's a very, I don't know, it's very cool visual storytelling, and I kind of like that. And he never actually ever just explains it to someone. That's kind of something that like the audience just picks up through watching him and his reactions.
Yeah.
So we could definitely gush about this movie all day, because it is really good, and I don't think any of us would disagree that it's the best in Phase 4. But I would argue that the movie that came out right after it is also really good, and that is Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. So I'll start. I don't, Randy, we haven't heard from you. What are your thoughts on Multiverse? Because you said you saw it twice.
I have seen it twice.
Yeah.
I saw it with you and Will.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I saw it. We went and saw it in theaters, and then the second time I watched it when I was back in Maryville, visiting my mom and my brother. And the second time I watched it, I'm not sure why I enjoyed it more, but I think just being able to pick up on more of the details in it was just one of the reasons I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Robert, what?
Some of the
sorry.
thing. Oh,
I'm sorry. I
let
thought
Randy
you were
go.
done. Go ahead. Keep going, Randy.
some of the other things I've really enjoyed through that movie was they do take more of a horror spin on it,
Mhm.
and I mean it's still not an actual like horror movie for the most
No.
part, but some of the things they did with and I guess still full spoilers because we've been spoiling everything else at this point.
Yeah.
Is what they did with Wanda and some of the things where I know she came out of the puddles and stuff that happened relatively early on, and she comes out of like the gong in one of the rooms and it's just like is all like twisted and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think just also the visual effects were outstanding. And you kind of have that going in because I know, like, the first Doctor Strange movie, a lot of people really enjoyed the visual effects that that movie had. And I mean, it's Doctor Strange. They're still here. It's still really cool stuff. Um, I know some people made fun of it, the music fight scene that
That
happens
was
between.
cool though.
Oh, that was a
Yeah,
really
I
cool
love
one.
that.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, I like it when Marvel has fun, but in ways that aren't just quipping back and forth between characters. You know, fight, fight, fight. Someone quips. Fight, fight, fight. Someone quips. But some of the like just fun ideas that they come up with and elements when it comes to some of the fight scenes and visual effects, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. So for me, this movie is like my answer to when people come up and like will say like, oh, every Marvel movie is the same. They're all just generic or whatever. This movie is not like the others. Like Randy said, it's more of a horror movie. It has a lot of really cool visuals and story details, and it deals with death and accepting, and it uses this multiverse idea. Even though they don't go to a lot of different multiverses, they use it pretty well. And I want to attribute a lot of that to this movie's director, one of my favorites, which is Sam Raimi. A lot of people probably know him for Spider-Man, especially people who are listening to this podcast, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. But he actually, like Randy mentioned, he's a horror director. He has done the Evil Dead series, which if you have not seen the Evil Dead series, I highly recommend. He's done pretty much almost all of them. Him and one of his best friends, Bruce Campbell, who also makes a cameo in this, like he does in all Sam Raimi movies. And this is I really enjoyed this movie. I rated it like 9 out of 10. If Spider-Man No Way Home was in Phase 4, this would definitely be my like top movie in Phase 4. It still is one of my top Marvel movies because I love the visuals. I love that it's more of a horror thing. I love that there are references to his other thing, this evil zombie book. Is a reference to the Necronomicon from his Evil Dead series. I like that they turned Wanda, who was originally a hero, into this like horror character, and because they're in a different universe, she can kill away and murder in some really gruesome and violent ways for a Marvel movie. Like people are getting.
I heard like the Scarlet Witch like character is like a lot more like brutal and stuff than like I guess the MCU really has.
Yeah, like she's ripping people apart. She's snapping necks. She's she's destroying people's minds from the inside. It's a lot.
They stretched that PG-13.
This
For some reason, I thought when we saw it in theaters, it had effects that were more gruesome, like when she destroys Mr. Fantastic. For some reason, I thought when it gets to the end, his head actually explodes in a little bit of like a small mist of blood.
You don't
But
really see like much, if any, blood in the movie.
okay, I wasn't remembering if I misremembered that because I remember when I
Yeah.
watched it at home on Disney Plus, I was like, did they change that?
No, I've seen it on Disney Plus as well. I've seen it twice. Yeah,
I saw it
there's
in
really not
I
a whole
saw it
lot
in
of blood to
theaters
it.
because I also remember like when she like pops his head, there is blood. Because also
I
like
could have swore there is, but oh well,
I don't
maybe I'm
remember there
misremembering.
being
maybe
blood.
I don't know. Maybe they did censor it for Disney Plus. That's interesting. That might be something I have to look up. But yeah, I mean, not just first off, that kill is gruesome, but that's not even the worst one. They cut Captain Carter in half. They bring back Black Bolt just to blow his head off. You know, Professor X is back, and I get to see one of my favorite actors die for the second time, by the way. Yeah, I remember Logan. Thanks for the trauma. And I really like what they do with Wanda's character, because throughout the movie, you do understand kind of where, I mean, obviously she's in the wrong, she's taking it to an extreme, but you get
Yeah.
why she's doing this, especially if you've seen WandaVision, which
Yeah,
will,
it's like if I
yeah,
watched the movie with my mom and she didn't watch WandaVision, so she didn't really. I kind of had to explain to her some of what was
yeah,
going on. Granted, there's like one other person that they had with us, so I mean, it wasn't a big deal us talking. But
yeah.
besides the point,
This is oh,
I
sorry.
kind of had to explain like a lot of it is like her grief and stuff from like losing those kids from Wanda, which weren't her kids to begin with, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, this is very much a movie where like you can't. This cannot be your first Marvel movie. Maybe some of the others like they're a bit forgiving for newer people. This one definitely is like, no, we've been doing Marvel for a while. It's technically the second Doctor Strange, but also like this is Phase 4, so like there's a lot of build up for a bunch of different characters, and I'm okay with that because honestly, at this point, not every movie has to be catered to as if this was their first one. Like, no, this is a sequel,
Yeah.
and this is like one of the middle ones for a long-standing series. So like, I'm fine with it not catering to new people. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the storyline with Wanda. I also like Doctor Strange's character arc, which isn't talked about a lot in this one, but I really like how his whole thing is not that like he's not good enough or he's not powerful enough, but that he has to kind of learn to just be like accept his fate or just move on. And it's very like I really like the line of you really think like are you happy? What do you mean? You
Are
really
you
think
happy? Yeah.
yeah, do you think saving the world will get you there, but no, like even when you know your happy ending happened and you beat the bad guy and whatever, yeah, he's still not happy. Um, he's going through emotional issues, and like a lot of the movie is he kind of has to learn how to just accept reality and then move on and just kind of accept the fact that life is not going to go the way he wants no matter how much he manipulates the universe. um, and so I really enjoyed that actor. um, I like America Chavez, the new character they brought in, and I like that her powers are just as weird and kind of dumb as it is in the comics because it is one for one, essentially of what she can do of just punching into a different universe. Um, so yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about this one. It's definitely, especially after coming out of Spider-Man, this is very much where I'm thinking like, okay, this is where Phase 4 picks up. This is where it's doing really well. Do you guys have, before I make another transition, you guys have more to say about Multiverse of Madness?
Uh, Not a whole lot, honestly. I think
Mm.
like you covered a lot of what I would have talked about.
I will say the only thing that felt a little on the nose that when she uses her powers, everything's a star. I don't know if it's like that in the comics
Yeah,
or not.
that's how it is. Yeah, that's
Oh,
what
okay.
I mean. Like
Then
it's
fine.
one for one.
It just felt like I'm like that's a bit on the nose. Like she's got a star on her jacket, and you know,
Her name's America,
st-
and her
Yeah, her
power
name's
scheme is red, white, and
America.
blue.
but you know that's fine.
If that's the worst that had come out of it, then
I mean, yeah,
I'm
that's
fine,
really
yeah.
like
Okay.
overall is enjoyable.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
So now we are on the last one, and earlier I said, which one? That Eternals was arguably the most divisive, but the other one that has been really divisive, it's the latest movie to come out. It's Thor: Love and Thunder, and it's even divisive amongst our own podcasts. So Robert, hold on one sec, because I'm gonna actually start with Randy. Tell me a little bit. How did you like Thor: Love and Thunder?
all right. Again, even though the movie just came out, I'm still doing full spoilers.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I saved it for the end.
yeah. I really enjoyed it by just how fun it was, and I think it was just as fun as Thor Ragnarok. Some would say, oh, well, then it's just, rehashing the same stuff, but it's really not, because you have Thor finally dealing with all of his emotions about Jane and whatnot, which they touch on a little bit in other movies, to where he's just like, everyone I've ever loved is dead or has left me.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I'm Thor. I'm gonna go kill the bad guy. Yeah. But like, even after he does literally chop off the head of Thanos, he's still just so unhappy and sad. And it's really
are
about
you happy, Thor?
yeah. Are you happy? It's about him getting through that, and I also really enjoyed Christian Bale as Gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Gore. Yes, Gore.
Yes, you are right.
There's a lot of characters to remember,
No,
just
you're-
between
yeah.
all the Marvel movies we're going through.
Yes. Why do you think I was calling people by their powers in Eternal? I called someone Death Girl, and I called someone else not Superman. So, yeah, you're
I
right.
guess. It's Christian Bale. He's gonna do a great job. So it was really fun getting to see him as a villain. That was really convincing, and honestly, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
What does that Mahasa go back? What does rrr mean? What does that mean?
He's not wrong. I mean, you go in, and all the gods that once they get like Thor and
Zeus.
Natalie Portman,
Oh yeah.
not remembering Lady Thor,
Mighty Thor.
Mighty Thor.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction.
You're good.
Jane Foster. There it is. Anyway,
Oh, I didn't know what you. I didn't know what you were trying to
I
find.
just went with Natalie Portman because anyway.
We knew where you were going. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And Valkyrie, and they all get there to not Mount Olympus, what they call
Yeah.
it, Golden City or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, like the home
Whatever,
of the gods.
where all the
yeah.
gods come and hang out from
Yeah.
all the different pantheons.
Mhm.
They get there, and like everyone there just like doesn't give a shit about like humans at all, and it's just like, we're just here, and like, if they end up dying off, who cares? We're gods. We can do whatever we want. And so, I mean, Gore, he's like, they kind of deserve it. They're letting all these people die when they have all this great power to perhaps step in and at least alleviate some of their strife. But
Okay.
so I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just generic like shadow monsters, but it was still fun getting to see some of his abilities when they had fight scenes and stuff. And I thought the end was really fun, having it be a fight scene that was in black and white.
Yeah. That was one of my
near the end there.
That was one of my more favorite scenes of the movie, where it goes almost all black and white except for the effects, and that's a really cool scene of Gore breaking down those characters. Also, I do want to point out, I kind of knew what you meant when you went rah, 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 but also we're a podcast and audio-based entertainment form, so maybe that's why I was like, can you explain your thoughts? And so I was like, hey, gorgeous
not
lady.
wrong. Yeah.
I also like knowing you probably like shrugged your shoulders, like it just did the little
100%.
hand movement.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's like
Exactly.
It's like no one can see you right now.
So I'm doing it for me.
Okay, but yeah, I also enjoyed it. I thought it was. I probably liked Ragnarok better, because that was the first time I see it. But I thought like there were a lot of really funny moments in this. I like seeing like more of the gods. Chris Hemsworth still always has fun with this character, and you can tell he's loving it. And so he's always good. This is also probably the best Marvel thing Natalie Portman has been in, because she really hasn't done the best. Now, to be fair, she hasn't had the best material to work with the first two Thor movies. But she's a lot better as Mighty Thor in this than as just regular Natalie Portman or Jane Foster. But that all said, Robert, what are your what's your opinion on this movie?
I didn't really like the movie all that much. Um, my big thing was like, it tries to play up the humor too much, similar to Ragnarok, but I think how they like handled it in Ragnarok was just a lot like better. Like honestly, like there are so many like jokes thrown into the movie that like didn't land for me. Like I don't think I really laughed at like anything besides maybe a chuckle of the goats at first, but the goats got
scary
annoying real
goats.
quickly,
Yeah.
and they
I had
were
the
like
opposite effect.
I like
What you guys
hated
didn't like
the
just
goats.
the
My
entire
humor
movie.
is like stupid YouTube poop lowbrow stuff, but that like got annoying to me. But it's like Thor isn't stupid, like at all. Like that's the thing of Thor is that he's not stupid. He just doesn't know a lot of the culture stuff because Asgard is a lot different than like Earth, so he's always gonna have a bit of awkwardness to him. But I think they just played into him more like it made me feel like Thor was an idiot, and that's not what Thor is. But it's like I feel like the writing for it just kind of missed like what this character really is. Like, yeah, he definitely had like a more goofy side to him and was kind of a jokish character in like Endgame, but he was still Thor.
Yeah.
But here it's like it was Thor, but I don't know why he was just suddenly like different. And like I also think the general like plot structure, they skipped too much of things that they shouldn't have skipped. Like the big thing is when Jane becomes Mighty Thor, Lady Thor. They don't really go much into that other than she goes to New Asgard and Mjolnir has like a reaction with her. But then the next time we see her, she's just knee deep in combat with like the shadow monsters in New Asgard. So we don't really see like her transformation to that or like her initial reaction to becoming a Thor. That which I feel like is really important, honestly. Just as, even if it was only like a couple minutes to do that, I think it would be a couple minutes that would be worth it because they would feel more natural. Other than she just, Thor shows up and hey, look, there's Mighty Thor.
Yeah, especially for
like I think he's about as confused as the audience is.
especially for a character
that.
who has never had powers or fought before and has been a person of science, but is now using like magic. And she just she just gets it.
She takes it more in stride than I think she should.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen the first two Thor movies, so I don't really know how much like Jane's really been like in direct like I guess contact of the more like I guess magical stuff with like Thor and the hammer and such.
I mean, she is like the main love interest, so like it's not like she ever held it.
I mean, she ends up on Asgard in the second one.
Yeah, so I mean,
Okay.
she's been around.
exposed
to
to
it.
it.
Also, I mean, she
She knows what's
dated
up.
like that was kind of
Okay.
like the first movie really dove into like her accepting magic as, and I was like, oh, it actually is kind of really similar to science, which is what I devote myself. But I do kind of see your point, and I wanted to bring up this question because this was something that someone else brought to me was Thor felt like so going from Ragnarok to Infinity War, Endgame, and this. So it felt like his character really progressed in Infinity War and Endgame because he lost his last member of his family, Loki. And so after...
Loki died and Asgard itself is gone.
Yeah. But, so what I'm saying is, like, once Loki died, he goes from joking Thor in Ragnarok to very serious, straight to the point, I'm killing Thanos in Infinity War. And then even in Endgame, where, he gets fat and depressed. But when Thanos is back, he's serious again. He's
Kind of, picks back up the mantle.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at here is, like, he did go through a character progression of he went from, joking to more serious and this kind of, like, warrior thing, and he finally finished his goal of killing Thanos. But what a lot of people point out in this one was it kind of felt like we're back to Ragnarok, like we
So
went
we're back to
backwards.
Ragnarok, but
Like,
it
we went-
didn't like land the same way Ragnarok did.
Well, not even that. I just mean that, like, and it might have not landed like this because literally, what people have argued is that his character progression, like, he almost forgot about everything that happened, and he's just back to his silly, goofy self, as if everything's fine. Ignore that, and as if like Infinity War and Endgame never happened. I don't know if I completely agree with that, but I kind of see people's argument where like we had this character build up and he had this really big moment, and now he's back to where he started. I can kind of see
Yeah.
people's perspective on that.
Did Taika Waititi direct both of these?
Yes, which is why it's very
Okay.
jokey and silly and good. Because I mean, that is just who he is.
That's his style, yeah.
Yeah, but
I-
and I do like.
I feel
his
like
movies, yeah,
he
but-
probably should have, kind of paid more attention to the kind of character they made Thor in those to keep it consistent. Because, yeah, it is kind of more the Ragnarok type Thor, but it doesn't really fit with, like, how he is coming off of Endgame.
Yeah, well, because
Also, just the Guardians in the movie weren't really there for like a couple minutes and then they're out. And
To be-
that's it.
to be fair, he was with the Guardians mainly because that's where I feel like, because that's where they ended him in Endgame. They just put him on that team, and then Taika Waititi's
Yeah,
like, I don't really.
It's like they were setting it up. It just feels like they were setting up like, oh, Thor Adventures with the Guardians, and we see like him carry a fight, and then they like split off to do
Yeah.
different things.
Which I'm kind of.
It's kind of an underwhelming thing.
I'm not gonna-
And that does. He's also not in Guardians 3 from what
Yeah.
I've seen like in articles and stuff.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of glad that happened that way, because I don't know if I want the Guardians there that long, because like, it's not their movie.
Well, it's a Thor movie, not a Guardians movie.
it's Thor's movie, and also like it's kind of, as they kind of showed in the beginning, and I actually really like that opening. Of it just kind of shows like, Thor is a lot stronger than everyone else on this team. And like he very much can handle the Guardians' problem a lot easier than they could. So I think it is good that like they split him up like almost immediately, and they have that funny
like-
scene of showing him that like he's just
The power difference between Thor and the Guardians is pretty substantial.
yeah. So it's good that like almost immediately they're like, let's not keep them around. Because honestly, if the Guardians like stuck around with him, what are they gonna do against Gore the God Butcher? What is
Nothing.
yeah?
Well-
What is Peter Quill gonna do? Play some '80s music at him? Like,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
It's really gracious of Thor to give him his ship, so,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, how nice of him. So yeah, I still enjoy the movie. I put it above Ragnarok, but I don't think I've heard a lot of, and it's not just Robert, but a lot of people are kind of on the fence about it, or even just don't like it as much. Maybe it is too similar to Ragnarok, at least in feel, but I don't know. I really enjoyed Ragnarok, so I'm okay with a movie kind of being similar. I'm glad it's more similar to that version of Thor instead of whatever Thor the Dark Thor was. And yes, I do know how I just said that. That is how I said it correctly. Thor the Dark Thor. So,
Like,
um,
I did like some things about Love and Thunder. Like, I think the fights were good. Like, the fight choreography in Marvel movies is always generally pretty good. I thought, like, the fight on the moon, that played like the color saturation and stuff, like, I thought that was pretty cool. Because I just like seeing, like, effects heavy type scenes. Like, if they're
Yeah.
pulled off really well. Which the effects are hit and miss in the movie. There's a few that are kind of not super great, but those have been already kind of, bitched about online.
I actually really like how they use Mighty Thor, and how she, even though they're like, yeah, her power should be the exact same as Thor, they're slightly different because she has the broken hammer and she uses it really creatively, where like flings into like all this different shards and she can control them all. It's like that's actually a
Oh yeah,
really
that's a really neat idea.
yeah, like that's really creative. And so this movie very much does feel like it's more of a sequel to Ragnarok versus a continuation of like, because the Thor we saw in Infinity War is very different. Like that one was short hair brown Thor, like or short brown haired Thor, where he's out on a mission, he's ready to kill it. He's like warrior. He doesn't care about anything else. Versus the one in Ragnarok and the one in this one are very much like joking. I'm having a good time. I'm cracking quips and doing all that. So it's very. I think they're just very stark. It almost feels like two different characters, which can
Yeah.
kind of be polarizing to people. I think it's just for a lot of people, they want that like angry Thor who's out for vengeance and wants blood and is like a warrior. And some people want this like very jokey, silly goofball Thor, and it's just kind of that balance of
Yeah,
which one.
like I think the balance in like Love and Thunder is too much on the jokey side. Like, yeah, I don't want him to be like completely deadpan and everything. I still want him to have like that awkwardness and stuff to him, but it also not like make that his entire thing.
Yeah.
Like he just doesn't feel very serious for a lot of the movie in moments that he should probably be a little more in.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just my perception of how they should do the character.
Ray, do you have anything else you want to talk about with Thor: Love and Thunder? Randy?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I had to think there for a sec. I was just like, I had stuff while Robert was talking, and then I forgot. So
You really scared me there for a sec. I thought we lost you. I thought like you
Yeah.
lagged out, and I was like, "Dang, I'm gonna have to edit this." But you're still here. That's good. All right.
I'm still here.
So we'll backtrack a little bit, and we won't go into these super in depth because I almost want to. I'm thinking about almost doing like a whole episode about just the shows, but one of like the big things about Phase 4, and is the TV shows. And honestly, I know not everyone has seen every TV show, but I honestly kind of think there's a lot more consistency, or at least. Actually, no, that's a good word. I'm going to stick with that take. There's a lot more consistency with the TV shows in terms of like quality, but they also do a couple more interesting ideas. One of the big ones, and it's really interesting that this is the one they started with, was WandaVision. It was a mystery show. It started off with just we seen the TV versions, and how we don't even start getting answers until later on, which led to, if you were watching this while it came out, you should have seen Twitter and everything online of different theories of all this. Me and Seth was here, we could tell you about all the different theories of like, oh, Mephisto's going to show up, and then the Fantastic Four, and then this is where Reed Richards, and this is how they're going to introduce the X-Men. And we thought this show was about to be the next great thing. And, looking back on it, it really wasn't all that. But it was still like, at the time, it was really interesting and like really dragged a lot of people into the Marvel shows. Real quick, guys, what are your guys' thoughts of starting off with WandaVision? I'll go with Randy first. I know it was a while since we've seen this show or even talked about
It's
it.
been a hot minute.
Yeah. This was
I
really
really-
the start. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the end was not that interesting to
Yeah.
me. At least the end fight. The characters were all really fun. It is fun to have them go through pretty much each like time period and see how they're doing little plays off of classic TV shows, or really popular TV shows from that time, and how they're shot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was like, I wouldn't say a love letter to like those kind of soap operas, but that definitely like was a major inspiration for it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It was fun getting to see all that. I will admit, almost every time it zoomed out to them talking
Outside the bubble.
from the outside, pretty
Yeah.
much outside the bubble, I did not really care that much, to be honest.
So I do. Quick question, Randy. Did you watch the show as it was coming out week to week, or did you watch it like kind of binge watch it all at once after it came out?
I binge watched it all after it came out.
Okay. I think that is.
So I didn't get to have that fun, oh, what's happening
Yeah.
situation.
And I think that really does like just speak to, and obviously unless you just make a schedule for yourself, it's hard to replicate that idea, especially also now since we know what happened to these characters. But I think that this was definitely a show like, it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode where it's like it's better when it's like week to week and you space it out and you let your brain make the theories. But I do agree with you that like the final fight scene, and to be fair, it's because I probably built it up way differently in my mind. The final fight scene is not anything special or to write home about, and a lot of like the things that were like promised in that show are only just now coming to fruition, or even if they have, like because they did hint at X-Men, and they did hint about like magic and a different universe and all that stuff. So it was a good setup, but yeah, it was very much built up more in our minds when the show was coming out. So that said, because we'll get through them quick. The one that came after this was kind of the more.
Oh, I hate to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but this is where I need to bow out. 'Cause
Like,
I've not seen the rest of these.
okay. I was planning on just not asking you the question, but I mean, fair enough, yeah. Then, yeah, so what you haven't, so out of any of the shows, the only one you've seen is WandaVision?
Yeah. 'cause
Okay.
I've just not watched a lot of the Disney Plus stuff.
Okay. Then honestly, we'll go in depth about them later, maybe with a different cast or just a different episode, but just kind of like skimming through the stuff. Falcon and Winter Soldier is definitely the safest out of all the shows, so it's pretty alright. Loki was super good, and I'm glad we're getting like a season 2 of that because that's going to be really interesting. What If probably, I don't know, maybe is the worst, but it's the one that like you can definitely skip What If because it stands on its own. Hawkeye I actually really enjoyed, even though I know it was a bit boring. Moon Knight, arguably the best one.
Really fun.
Yeah, really fun. Something I do want to, actually I'm gonna pause myself. I know I'm kind of speed running these, but I'm gonna pause myself on these two because I honestly believe both Hawkeye and Moon Knight, while are good, I think both of these would be better if they were not 6-episode shows and instead movies. Because Moon Knight, honestly, you could probably just place it all together and just be a movie. But Hawkeye, one of its big issues is that there's a lot of subplots and a lot of kind of little details that just feel unnecessary in it. And I think if you just cut that stuff out and restructure the story a little bit to make it make sense, I think Hawkeye would be a lot better as like an hour-and-a-half movie. Because I really do like Kate Bishop as an actress, and she does really well in this, and I like the chemistry with her and Clint. I called her Kate Bishop. That's the character's name. I meant Haley Steinfeld, but I think those two characters have a good dynamic together, and I really enjoyed that. And then I also really do enjoy. I think I'm the only one that has seen this, like at least with our group, is Miss Marvel, and that is definitely the show that like I did not think I would like. I thought this would be like the most boring of them all, but I will say it was very pleasantly surprising, like how good Miss Marvel was. It tells a story that like haven't heard about. It talks about a moment in history I knew very little about, It has interesting characters. The actress that plays Miss Marvel, super entertaining to watch. And even though they change up her powers a lot, the character herself is still, for the most part, the same. So, yeah, a lot of, I'm gonna say this now too, a lot of people that like probably skipped out on Miss Marvel because they saw it as more like, it's the kids show, it's the PG Marvel. Take a second look at that one because Miss Marvel's actually pretty good. Robert, you can join back in if you left already now.
Nah, he dipped.
Oh, like completely dipped. Like,
Yeah, he did.
okay. I guess it's a
So long.
two-person podcast now. Well, I guess looking, because technically Phase 4 is not over. There's still two more. There's a movie left and a show left. So I guess, Randy, what are your, and that movie's obviously Wakanda Forever. Randy, what are your kind of hopes for Wakanda Forever? It's a very touchy subject to talk about because of the history behind it.
I'm excited for it to see where they go with it, to see if they go with exactly where people are kind of predicting with Shuri, if she becomes the new Black Panther. I'm also very interested to see it's talking very much about the, or it seems to at least be very much about the women leaders in and the group of warrior women in Wakanda. And I think it could be really interesting just to hear about T'Challa's mother and how she is going through this, having pretty much most of her family gone, having to now deal and kind of be this leading figure for Wakanda now that they are open to the world and helping them.
Yeah. I actually kind of, the trailer for this movie got me really hyped. Because, I mean, even just from the short, like, moment that we have with her, the actress that plays Black Panther's mom, amazing speech with a great score behind it. So I have a lot of high hopes for this. It's gonna be interesting how they do deal with that, because honestly, that's a really hard situation to be in with the actor dies in real life, but you already have this plan to keep the movie going. What do? So it's gonna be very interesting. It's definitely gonna. I'm definitely gonna have to like keep my eye out for that one. Also,
The actress's name is Angela Bassett.
Thank you. Yeah, his mom.
That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, Google
Double check.
stuff.
Yeah.
Can always count on you for that. My prediction for it is, I don't actually think it'll be Shuri that is the next Black. It would make sense with the story, and I'm sure the actress could do a good job. But I actually want it to be Okoye, who is leader of the Dora Milaje, and she's shown up a bunch of times, and I really like that actress. And I would actually be really okay if she donned the mantle of Black Panther. I know a lot
That'd
of
be
other
really
people,
cool too.
yeah, I know a lot of other people have been suggesting that it's either his mom or, I can't remember her character's name, but like the actress that played his love interest in the
I
in the
hope
first
it's
movie.
not her.
Yeah, I don't know if
I just feel like she wasn't that developed, and more people care about his direct family, probably mostly about his sister. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are predicting it to go that way, and if it goes that way, I don't think it'd be bad. If it's something that people predicted, that's not necessarily a bad thing, per se.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I'm also, another thing that's like going to be really interesting about this is it's going to introduce Ironheart. And for those who don't know, Ironheart is essentially Tony Stark's replacement. It's a young black girl who becomes like the next Iron Man. And I'm going to be completely honest. Me and a lot of other people do not like Ironheart, as not because of because it's not our Tony Stark. No, because I just don't like her character. She's very boring. She's very bland. People have described her as a black character that's written by a group of a bunch of white guys, and which is accurate. I don't know.
Never
if that's
a good situation usually.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually who wrote the character or not, but that's just how she feels, and she's just very bland and boring. That all said, I really hope this version is a lot better because she's supposed to already get her own series. And again, Iron Man is like, he's one of my favorite characters in the comics and obviously in the MCU. Love him, love Robert Downey Jr. So it's going to be really interesting seeing how they handle that and what happens with Ironheart. I'm hoping for the best. I really want to have a good version of this character. I want her to do well.
Interesting theory here that I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
off the top of my head because I didn't really know that much about this character, but I was like, well, obviously they have to be really good with technology and basically a genius. I'm like, well, what if it does end up that the leader of the Wakanda warrior group becomes the Black Panther, and then Shuri becomes Ironheart, because she kind of was already kind of cocky and stuff like that when we see her in Black Panther and in Infinity War. So I think they already have this character that is already established to be insanely smart, a little cocky and stuff like that, which kind of fits your Iron Man, Tony Stark idea. Now I don't know if Ironheart is written similar or not.
Well, she's supposed to.
But-
She's not written well, so she can be written however make her entertaining.
I mean, yeah, it's not
Yeah.
the first time they would have changed someone, because I mean,
Yeah.
Thor, like I said, I love that he's a goofball now and stuff like that. And when he was like super kind of stoic and stuff in the first two Thor movies, it may have been more comic accurate, but I mean, Thor was kind of boring.
Yeah, he's much better now.
So writing him as this
Yeah.
goofball that's really fun, people love Ragnarok, and I think in general, like box office wise, I'm sure Love and Thunder did insanely well.
Yeah. So I like that theory, and I think I would be okay if Shuri was Ironheart, but I don't. I'm pretty sure that's not where they're going, because I'm pretty sure they already casted a completely different actress, and her name is literally like credited as Ironheart. Now maybe that's a misdirection, but I like that theory, and I might like that idea more than what they end up going with, but we'll see. We'll see. Robert,
I guess we'll find out.
Robert, now that you're back.
Robert's gone.
No, he's not.
No, I'm back.
He's here.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I got him
I
back.
didn't hear it ding.
I got him back. Robert, what are your hopes for Wakanda Forever?
I didn't watch the first Black Panther, so
All right.
I don't have a whole lot to
All right, you can
say
leave.
on that.
No, don't leave again. Please. Don't leave again. Wait, that was a joke earlier. I didn't think you'd actually do it. But okay. Well then, the only other thing other than that in Phase 4, which by the way, watch Black Panther. It's probably one of the best like origin movies in the MCU. But
nothing but good things. So
one
I
of
need to get
the-
around to it.
Yeah, the last thing that's in Phase 4 is She-Hulk, which is also the reason I'm interested in She-Hulk She-Hulk is a pretty interesting character, and I like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, and it's kind of unfortunate because a lot of his character development is kind of done off screen because he's not allowed to have a Hulk movie because of Fox. But what I'm more interested than anything that is happening with She-Hulk is the fact that at the end of the trailer, and now a lot of She-Hulk stories, Daredevil is associated with her, and I'm way more hyped to get that character back from the original Netflix Daredevil series, because all these shows are pretty good. You know, I really like Moon Knight. I like Loki. I like all the other shows. The best Marvel TV show to this day is still the Netflix Daredevil. If you want to watch it, you have to go into Disney Plus and like literally change your settings to be like, yes, I'm okay with adult content. But it's highly recommended if you haven't watched it, especially now that he's back. I forgot to mention he was technically back in Spider-Man, but now he's actually back in his costume. Highly recommend Daredevil. It's really good. Randy, are you excited at all for She-Hulk, or are you kind of whatever, not really interested in it?
I mean, I'll probably watch it
Yeah.
just to kind of be up with what's coming out and stuff like that. But I don't have much excitement for it. I'm sure it'll be fun, but
Yeah.
I honestly don't know that much about the character. It seemed fun from the trailer that they broke the fourth wall, so that's the second character that we have doing that. With
think I
Deadpool
remember-
obviously being very famous for
Yeah.
doing that. So
I think I remember hearing that that's kind of She-Hulk's thing, is breaking the fourth wall. Like she was like that in the comics too.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. She-Hulk, I don't know too much about it, other than like, I remember she was a popular character to like appear up in cameos in other shows. So, but I mean, I guess that could make sense. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do that. Robert, are you excited at all for that show, or are you?
I'm pretty much in the same boat as Randy.
Yeah.
Like I'll watch it just to watch it, but I'm not like overly excited about it or anything.
All right. Well, talking about things that we are excited for now, again, the main reason that we started doing this is because Comic-Con happened and they announced 5 and a little bit of 6. So looking at this list, and for those who don't know, it's Ant-Man, Guardians 3, Loki Season 2, Blade, Agatha's getting a movie, which was the main villain in WandaVision.
WandaVision.
Yeah, Captain America this time, but with Falcon Captain America. Secret Invasion, which will be more Skrulls and Miss Marvel and that stuff. Echo, which was a character in Hawkeye, which I'm interesting she's getting one. The Marvels, which will be combining Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. Ironheart, like I mentioned earlier. The one that I'm really excited for, Daredevil, Born Again, bringing back that original cast from the Netflix series, and then the Thunderbolts, Thunderbolts are kind of like the evil or like anti-heroes of Avengers. So it'll be people like Red Hulk, or probably Abomination in this case. Yelena will most likely be in it. Maybe a Daredevil. Maybe these kind of like characters that have been hinting at and been kind of popping up as like either anti-heroes or secondary villains. A lot of times in the comics, Zemo will lead them, so it'll be an interesting show.
and U.S. Agent,
U.S. Agent,
From-
yes, yeah.
he'll definitely show up in that.
Yeah, so I guess I just named off a bunch of stuff. And Randy, are any of these do any of these stand out to you at all? Like, are you excited for any of the shows I mentioned? Nothing really, no real big group movies. They're saving the next Avengers things for Phase 6. So what kind of out of these stands out to you, or if anything?
I would say that Loki season 2 is gonna be. I'm really interested in that. I think because what they did with the first season,
Yeah.
I felt was pretty fun. I'm also interested to see the new Captain America movie. Have Anthony Mackie get his own movie.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed, for the most part, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know we just kind of blazed through it. We'll probably do another episode and actually talk.
Yeah.
About
we'll get more in
uh,
depth of them. That will of
Let's
all
do
the
it
episodes.
after She-Hulk's done. We'll then
Yeah,
just do
that's a
every
good timeline.
Phase 4
Yeah.
TV show, since there was a lot of TV shows in it.
Yeah, that'll
So
be a
boom,
good timeline.
peek into the future. We'll do that later.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess honestly, Loki season 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm not like super jazzed about it. I'm just like, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Kind of the same with Quantumania. I think it could
So
get really interesting. I honestly don't know anything about Quantumanium
So the
other
one-
than
oh, go ahead.
I don't know anything
Yeah.
about it other than I mean it's supposed to deal obviously heavily into the multiverse, which makes sense as they're calling Phase 4, 5, and 6 the Multiverse Saga.
So, one thing I will mention about that one is the only thing that we really know about that is that Kang will show up in Quantumanium. Like, he's already casted, and they've already mentioned that. So, and that will be the next time we've seen him since the season finale of Loki. So that is real. So that's kind of the reason that I'm interested in that one. And also, I know a lot, like, he's not anyone's favorite Avenger, but I actually really do like Ant-Man. I think Paul Rudd's hilarious, so I'm excited to see that.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, Robert, what about so there's a lot of different shows. Is anything kind of standing out to you or piquing your interest, or is just kind of whatever?
Kind of over the whatever side. I mean, I'm looking forward to Guardians 3 just because I like the Guardians.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's better than 2.
Were you not a
And
fan of 2?
Mostly, I was indifferent on it. Like, I watched it. I thought it was, a decent time. It just wasn't, like, my favorite of the Marvel movies. I liked the first one more. But, I think more just what I'm interested in and just them exploring the multiverse stuff more. Because I'm just interested just to see, like, all the different, like, universe stuff come together and how they, like, handle all that.
Yeah. All right. Well, and then even further than that, the only thing that they have announced for Phase 6, which I will point out, there are a ton of blank spots in 6, but they have announced that Fantastic Four will be starting off, and then 2 Avengers movies. One dealing with Kang and one Secret Wars, which more than likely will be, if it's like the comics, dealing with Doctor Doom. And obviously, we don't know much about him because, I mean, it's 2025 or 2026 is when these actually will be coming out. But I do have kind of a prediction for Secret Wars. I want to know your guys' opinion on it. Because in the comic, one of the big things about it is it deals with Doctor Doom and also kind of almost resets the universe. And it writes out a lot of dumb things and allows characters to kind of start their story over. It's almost like how DC did their New 52. It's a bit different, and there's a bit other like story details that are a bit, but my main thing is I am thinking that Secret Wars will kind of be the end of the phases and almost be kind of an end of the MCU. I'm not going to say they're not going to be done making Marvel movies because they're going to keep doing these forever, or at least until they stop making money. But probably what I'm predicting is once Secret Wars is over, they'll do kind of a somewhat reset of the universe where they can essentially reset the current universe and then maybe even cast a new Iron Man. Maybe 2 years after this, they have a new Iron Man and a new Captain America. And now they're almost starting the MCU over, but this time they're allowed to use mutants. They're allowed to use the Fantastic Four. They don't have any restrictions. What are your guys' thoughts on, if my theory is right, on after Phase 6, they do like a reset and they don't continue this very long storyline. They almost kind of just restart. Or would you guys just want to keep
approaching it as like an end to this story, just kind of continue by resetting, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like, they wrap up this timeline and this storyline, and like, all right, let's take these characters, get like new actors and new scenarios for them to fight in, and just do something new with these characters they either killed off or just didn't really have much good to work with. Just see like what all they can do with that.
Okay. Randy, what would you think? Do you want him to just keep the same timeline or anything, or do you think that would be a good point to just kind of start over?
I mean, it's so far out, it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
decide. I don't know. I would like um, Anthony Mackie to get more than one um, Captain America kind of appearance.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there was the TV show, but I guess more than one theatrical
Mm-hmm.
appearance, which I'm sure he'll obviously be very heavily involved in the two Avengers movies. Obviously, at least I would think so. At least
hope
one
so.
of them, a minimum.
Yeah.
But
Well, there could be another Captain America movie because again, Phase 6 has a million different blank spots on it. But
that's true.
yeah. But also, I mean, they've only hinted at X-Men and Fantastic Four, so there's a lot of things to still cover.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's obviously still very blank, so they could maybe throw an X-Men movie somewhere in Phase 6, but I still don't know if I see that happening. Because I think if they were to throw one in Phase 6, then they would expect them to show up in Secret Wars, or a lot of fans would. Because you're going to have all these characters that we're having built out currently are going to be involved in Secret Wars. Maybe they get introduced at the end of it, like you were saying, have it be reset, or at least that's how they bring mutants in. Is that way?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I prefer having it be continued with these characters, because I think you can really develop these characters pretty well, because again, we don't see another Spider-Man movie in there, and I guess if they're gonna reset the universe, I mean, I would like to see a Spider-Man movie still with Tom Holland, but being classic, where like no one knows him, and he doesn't have all the Stark tech and stuff like that. I would like to see that.
Let's be honest, they just need to reset the universe just to have Morbius fit in.
Oh God. This is how they do it. This is how they get Venom in there and Morbius. It's Secret Wars.
I still, that's one thing that we didn't even bring up, is that Venom was in the MCU for 5 minutes at most, and they kicked him out again. And I find it
There's
really
Spider-Man posters and Morbius apparently.
Yeah. Well, I find it really funny. Also, apparently, like, Vulture's in that movie, but no one saw no one saw Morbius to say. So, anyway. But I find it really funny because I imagine what's happening is Sony is like looking at the script like, oh, well, we're gonna write this post-credit scene at the end of Venom, so now they'll have to use him in the MCU. So now we'll have to get money, and then they just wait till the end and they just like kick him out again.
And just drop off a piece of Venom so that way they can do the symbiote.
Yeah, get a different.
Yeah.
Which is also the other thing. I mean, I feel like that almost has to be 2 movies out, or 2 Spider-Man movies out, because I don't know if I'd want the next Spider-Man movie to be him being on his own where no one knows him and he gets the symbiote. I don't know. I guess they could do it. I mean, it's Kevin Feige and stuff, so I'm sure he has a lot of that stuff planned out.
This has been planned out for years and years, and all we can do is speculate. And it will be. I mean, it is interesting to think that, like, I mean, Spider-Man has had almost every Spider-Man movie has had more than one villain. So I mean, if they want to do, new Spider-Man plus a Venom suit, like they could figure a way out to do it. It'd be interesting, but we're starting to. We've been talking for a while. Do you guys have any final thoughts about like Phase 4 as a whole? Do you think it's as good as the other phases, or do you think it's kind of been a bit more on the weaker side?
Probably better than like Phase 1, but it's like overall I guess better.
Yeah.
But it's been a roller coaster. Like it's quite literally ups and downs at the start, and then it has like a little more consistency by the end. Though, in my opinion, it drops off of Love and Thunder, but some people really did like the movie, so.
Yeah.
it probably didn't end on a negative note for some people.
Well, it hasn't ended yet. It still has.
Oh yeah, it's like, oh wait, yeah, because we still got Wakanda
So
forever.
that'll be very interesting to see how they handled that situation. Randy, what about you? How would you compare Phase 4 to kind of the other phases?
I almost have to pull up a whole timeline here.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
So I
there's
can-
a lot of
because
different.
there's
That was a
so
very
many
big question.
movies.
There's a lot of things to compare it to.
So phase 1 through, I'll just say phase 1 through 2 is all I really need to see, because it's definitely not as good as phase 3.
No, with the Infinity Saga, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's kind of a hard
Yeah,
comparison.
not a chance.
All right, he's still
Okay,
reading.
let's see.
There, he's still going.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling up a timeline.
Just try to get rid of dead
All
air.
right, let's see. Phase 1 was Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and Avengers.
Which I mean,
I think, yeah, I can agree with Robert that it's not as good as Phase 4. I don't know, like Avengers just, because it's kind of like hard to rag
yeah,
on the original because they were kind of figuring out their formula.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because like when I'm looking at this, I like 2 movies of Phase 1. I like Iron Man, and I like Avengers. I didn't like Thor. Iron Man 2 was fine, I guess. And Captain America was also just fine, in my opinion. And then looking at Phase 2, well, I guess I also like 2 movies. Maybe I don't like the MCU.
wow,
Phase 2, I
realization.
liked like 2 movies. I
Well,
liked
I mean-
Guardians, and I liked Captain America,
Civil War.
Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Wait, what about Civil War or Civil War 3? Oh wait,
You mean
I think
Iron Man
Civil War-
3?
no. Civil
War
War is-
technically is
Civil
in
War is a
Phase
Captain
3.
America 3. What I mean is like, is Civil War Phase 3?
Civil War is Phase 3 according to this chart I'm looking at.
Okay, then actually,
It's
yeah,
the first
okay, then
movie
yeah.
of Phase 3.
No, I will say it's a bit. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's a bit hard to compare because as they progress, they can expand these characters, and it's supposed to be like any story. They're supposed to get better as time goes on. So, you know, just interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting.
Well,
one.
okay, I guess maybe I like 3 movies from Phase 2. Iron Man 3 was fun. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Okay. Well,
So yeah, I guess it's somewhere under Phase 1 and maybe around Phase 2. Let's see. I really like Shang-Chi. Doctor Strange was good. It also had Phase 4 is definitely better than
Yeah.
It goes phase like ranking. It's just phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 4, Phase 3.
I will say
And
just. Oh,
We'll
sorry.
see
Yeah.
as we finish out Phase 4
Yeah.
if it moves up any. Unlikely because I mean Phase 3 had the Infinity Saga. So
Yeah. I will say, like, Phase 4, like Robert, I think Robert kind of said it really well. It's just been very inconsistent in terms of, like, quality. It's been going up and down, but it's definitely carried by Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. Like, those 2 are really what have been carrying it. Probably not as good as, probably won't get as good as 3, but those
I don't
2,
think much will.
no.
Honestly, I think Phase 3 is going to be
Spider-Man,
what
I
they're
was
going to
saying-
be striving to beat.
Yeah, Spider-Man was the closest thing, but it's not.
I mean, yeah, but that's one movie.
Yeah,
In comparison,
nah.
like Phase 3 had multiple good ones. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, excluding the Infinity Saga, we still have
Civil War.
Ragnarok.
Yeah,
We still have Spider-Man: Homecoming, Spider-Man: No Way Home,
Black Panther.
Black Panther, Doctor Strange.
yeah, it's
I mean,
got,
honestly, when looking at Phase 3 movies, let's see, ones that I didn't care for: Guardians Volume 2, Captain Marvel, and Ant-Man and Wasp.
yeah.
So,
So
to be fair, Phase 3 is literally double the size
yeah,
of Phase 1 and 2.
Phase
so,
Phase 3 is. I don't think they forgot to dephase and just kept doing a bunch of movies.
yeah.
So that all said, we've been talking about that. We're getting to the end of the show, and as always, at the end of the show, we always talk about our fresh picks of the week or our rotten picks of the week if there's something you just absolutely hated. Robert has been talking about a couple of different ones. I don't know which way he'll go, but Robert, what are your picks? You think, are they fresh? Are they rotten? What's going on?
I'm gonna go with rotten so I can bitch about the Lion King live action.
All right, go ahead. Why is it rotten?
All right, so the story begins last week. Me and my girlfriend Becca, we like to watch cursed things sometimes and like laugh at it. So I got the idea. Let's see how bad the live action Lion King was. So we start watching it, and there's not too much to laugh at. It just kind of turns more depressing than anything. The original Lion King, great movie, holds up really well. Very like emotional story. All the songs and stuff I really like. And then the live action movie takes a lot of what makes the original like good and gets rid of it. The big
What, you
thing
didn't like
is,
that they saying, "Can you feel the love tonight?" during the day?
I
Oh my
forgot
God,
about
they do
that.
that.
I forgot.
Yeah, they
about
do.
that.
Okay, honestly, after the halfway point, we just started skimming through just to see how bad the songs were. And I love them throwing in like Beyonce over something because gotta throw in your pop music or whatever. But yeah, it for as emotional of a story as The Lion King is, I think the decision of using like real CG-ish like looking animals was a bad call because
Mhm.
animals don't have a lot of like expressions like that.
Yeah.
So a really like emotional story and then you just have like a stoic looking like lion doesn't really like artistically mesh, and it just visually it looks good. It
Yeah.
visually it is a good looking movie.
Hmm.
Like everything looks real, but that's not what the Lion King needs to be, because animals, if you want to have like a lot of expressiveness to them and kind of like humanize them in a way, animation's the way to go because you can do a lot more with that
Yeah. And
than like the realistic look.
Yeah. And also, like, I don't think anyone really has ever thought, dang, I really wish they did The Lion King and just did it again. Because, like, that
Yeah,
style
it's just a
of-
classic as is.
Yeah,
you don't
exact-
really need to
Exactly.
do
And that,
anything with it.
and that style of animation, like, it still holds up to this day because it's a stylized animation. It's not gonna get old. It still looks good. It was drawn by someone's hand. So you don't need to make it CG, which CG, no matter how good it will, technology always advances. So eventually in the future, we'll always get something better. But the thing with Lion King, it is timeless. The songs will always be good. The story's always good because the story's, by the way, if you didn't realize, it's just Hamlet. So it's always been good. It's like Shakespeare. But yeah, I don't think anyone wanted, because they do a lot of these live action Disney remakes, and I know some people enjoy them, but I don't know who asked for these. And I think I agree with Robert. It's not necessary to see, and you don't need to remake the classic. So
Yeah.
that's
So
it.
yeah, don't watch it.
Yeah. Don't watch it. Is that? I'm trying to think. Is that our no? The first Ron pick of the week. It was mine. It was Marvel's Avengers. But you know what? Good on you for the second Ron pick of the week, Robert. Keeping this segment fresh. Yeah, see what I did there.
I
Okay.
thought I was keeping it rotten.
Yeah, he gets the joke. All right, Randy, your turn. What have you been playing, watching, or listening to?
My fresh pick of the week is because I saw it has come to Disney Plus recently.
Mhm.
Is to go and watch through Deadpool 1 and 2 if you're looking
Yeah.
for something fun with exorbitant amounts of violence.
Yeah.
But if you want something still very violent,
Yeah.
but a lot more serious and widely considered I think that's not very argumentative. Most people would consider Logan a better movie than either the Deadpool ones.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what flavor you're looking for.
It's a different
for your
style
entertainment.
of violence, but yeah. I agree. I also when I saw it came to Disney Plus, I also rewatched Logan and wanted to cry again because they keep killing Charles Xavier. But yeah, it's Logan is such a good movie. It's such a good ending to that character. Who like if you're an X-Men fan, like you love Wolverine and you love Hugh Jackman's performance of him. So hopefully, though, that said, and Randy, I actually want your opinion on it. Would you want him to return as Wolverine if whenever they do
No.
Deadpool 3
Oh, if they do Deadpool 3,
and they bring Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine?
I'm okay with that, but I would
Okay.
not want them when they bring the mutants and X-Men into the MCU. I don't want
Yeah.
it to be Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
He's a very beautiful man, but I'm afraid he'll probably be a bit too old at that point. How old is he?
He's in his 50s. He's a bit. Still is like, Keanu Reeves.
Being said, he still
Yeah.
gets shredded as hell.
Yeah,
and
well,
looks
these
great.
are like Hollywood people. They're all on performance enhancers and other stuff that make them look like Greek statues. So, but yeah, I think I'm also agree. And unless he's someone brought up this idea to me, and I don't remember where it originated from, but make him come back for Deadpool 3, but instead of Wolverine, make it just Deadpool stole Hugh Jackman and is just convinced he's Wolverine, even though it's just have the actor play himself. I think that could be really funny.
That could be fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Do something like that where, like, if it's not as a serious role, because also those two get along with each other really well. They have a lot of good chemistry, and I don't know. I just said that theory, but part of me also doesn't want that to happen because I think Wolverine plus Deadpool is really cool, and I want those two characters, like those two actors, to do it just once. I don't need like a whole series or him
Yeah,
to do
just
it
have
for
him do it a little bit in Deadpool
Yeah.
3, and I think that would be really fun.
I would enjoy that. But yeah, I agree with Randy. Go watch those. Technically 3 movies, but they're all on Disney Plus now. Which is almost everything we mentioned except for Thor: Love and Thunder, which it'll be on Disney Plus shortly. So, for my fresh pick of the week, and I would believe Robert would agree with me, is it's actually a platform fighter, and it is a free-to-play game. It might technically still be in beta, but it's going to be free when it releases, and all your stuff transfers over, so might as well be out now. And that's Multiverses, which, if you don't know what that is, it is a platform fighter, so similar to like a Smash Bros. But instead of, Smash Bros. Characters, it is any character that is associated with WB. Now, that includes any DC character. So Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are in the game, in Harley Quinn, but that's also Game of Thrones. Arya Stark is in the game. That's the old Looney Tunes, and Tom and Jerry is in the game. Even the Iron Giant, who is my main in that game, is in it. Any character from Cartoon Network, so Steven Universe characters, Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. Heck, I'm pretty sure they just added Rick and Morty and LeBron James.
Yeah, they're going to add Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
The LeBron's came out. I
Yeah.
just want to ask you, where does Senator Armstrong fall into this? Okay, you may not know that actually. I bought it a character into the game. just
Okay.
now.
Well, then yes, you can buy it, but I'm pretty sure that's owned by Kojima, and
It's
Kojima's
Konami.
not owned by WB.
No, I bought it Senator Armstrong over Superman as we were doing this.
Okay, good to know. Nano machine, son. What is it? So you said it's over Superman?
Yes, and it's amazing because he just flies around.
I don't know why. Part of me almost wanted you to put him over LeBron.
I wish, but
But then the only line he says is, "I used to play college ball," even though he played football, not basketball. But I still want him to say the
Still
line. Anyway, yeah.
Sorry
But
to
that-
derail that too much.
No,
I
you're
had to
good.
bring it up
But
since
that
you brought up
game- yeah.
multiverses.
But yeah, that game, it's super fun. It's mainly focused on 2v2 combat, which leads to some really fun moments. Ree and Robert have been playing it a lot. Again, it's free on all Xbox, PS4, or excuse me, Xbox, PS4, PS5, and PC, and it's crossplay. It has rollback netcode. If you are into like Smash, like even if you're just casually into Smash Brothers, or if you're really into it, definitely check this out. Or honestly, if you just want to pick up a game and have some funny moments with people over, I highly recommend that as well. There's free for all mode. It's just
Did you mention that it is just free?
yeah. No, I think this is the third time I'm gonna mention it, but yeah, it's just completely free. So you don't, and there's a battle pass if you want to get into that, but base game is free. So I recommend it. It's one of the better platform fighters that I play because obviously Smash is good, but then you have a bunch.
Rollback netcode.
Yeah, you have a bunch one, and again the big one, rollback netcode, which for those who don't know means a lot if you're trying to play games online. It just makes the game run smoother. There's not as much lag or as much latency. So definitely recommend Multiverses. And for the final time, say it with me, folks, it is free.
It's free.
It's free.
It's free.
So, yeah. No Game Pass recommendations, though, this time. Maybe we'll 1 week off of that. 1 week off being a just complete sponsor by Game Pass. But
We're not actually sponsored, so we're not obligated. We just do it anyways. We do it in the hopes
we're-
of being sponsored.
yes, I'm about to say, but we are hoping to be sponsored. Please, Xbox, if you're listening, which I know you're not. So, but that said, I want to thank you both for joining me, even though Robert left for a little bit.
Thought I was moved off.
No one booted you off, unless Randy did.
I didn't boot him.
Okay. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you everyone else for listening. Have a nice day. Go watch some Marvel. Goodbye.
Peace.